technical difficulties averted. So yeah, we manage about 18,000 acres of owned, rented, and crown land. 10,000 of those acres are in crop pasture forage rotation. That's around home. We kind of do a mix of conventional grain farming, organic grain farming, hay ground, pasture ground, all sorts. And then the remaining acres are pasture leases, and that's crown land that we graze on. So we have about a 650 cow herd that changes back and forth, and we run about 2,500 head in the backgrounding lot, and we grass approximately about 1,000 yearlings. Okay, where are we starting? So, upon completing our post-secondary education, we returned to the farm and began managing the day-to-day operations. Most all our pasture land was ceded to meadow brome. Through the 90s and stuff like that, some of the land had been rented out, and that's what was put down to it, and it was grazed extremely hard. There was no rotational grazing. The cattle were put on it until it got grazed to the dirt, and that's the way it was done. So we had no legumes in there at all. At that time, everyone was scared of grazing alfalfa or anything like that. Risk of bloat, so it just wasn't a thing back then. So our plan was to rip up the fields that were not fenced and conventionally farm them. At the same time BSE hit, there was poor cattle markets. It just seemed like the right fit at the time. And we needed to get the best return, and we weren't getting it from unproductive forage acres. So we ripped up a bunch of the fields, we farmed them for a number of years. We quickly learned that it wasn't lucrative. Our fields are what we call marginal land. They're not open corner to corner, they're hilly, lots of sloughs, peat moss, heavy clay hills. We're spending lots of money on fertilizer and just not getting the results out of the land. Lots of overlap. On 160 acres, we were seeding 200 acres, give or take. So it just wasn't the right fit for us, we felt. So at that time, the cow herd was liquidated, the feed yard was built, and we decided our acres were best put to use growing feed for the feedlot and being cash crops. Some cattle were finished in the feedlot, and then others were put to grass on the fenced fields that we had. So the grass operation seemed like a pretty good fit through those years. At that same time, we started to fence off the old hay fields and graze them. However, the fields were tired and didn't have favorable grass species in them. The alfalfa had kind of dwindled out, and it was just whatever native grasses grew back in there. Soil seemed like it was tired, lots of bare spots, kind of depleted. So we needed to renew those pastures and had to make a decision on what to do. So we did some direct seeding into the pastures. Well, we did see some results from that. We didn't feel that we were happy with those results. We weren't getting as much in there as we were hoping for. We also, we tried disc drilling some in, and we also bought some land aerator where we were trying to rejuvenate it that way and spread seed behind it. But just with some of the dry conditions we had, we didn't see good results. So we found some pasture mixes that we really liked, and Jelise will show you those later, and we wanted to seed them down. So at the same time, this left the land unproductive for a few years while we were doing that. So we had to till it up, make a desirable seed bed, and I wasn't really a fan of unproductive ground. Everything for us needs to try to turn a profit. So after discussion with my sister, and she comes from a successful organic farming family, we thought it could be a good fit for us. Now we're using the organic crops after breaking up the tired pasture hay land, so we still have cash coming in while we're rejuvenating some of this ground. So we seed the organic crops for a few years before reseeding down to the same sort of forage, but now we've kind of doing some good clovers we brought into it as well. We're doing some cover crop. Just all depends if the land is fenced or not fenced, or what the situation is and what the land needs. So the cover crops, we use those for silage on the 3rd year of organic, and that way we can kind of clean all the weeds up, clean the land up again, and then we can make a decision whether to do another round of organic or get it prepped to put it back into forage grass mix or forage seed or whatever we choose to do. And that way we're trying to build the organic matter in our soil, keep it healthy, and have long-term sustainability. So why it works for us? It keeps most of the profit in our hands and not in the fertilizer companies, and it offers flexibility to salvage poor crops for feed or feed shortage situations. So like in 21, we ended up taking a bunch of these crops, and 21 or 22, a few years ago we were in extreme drought, so we had to take most of it for feed to sustain the cattle operation for the year, which we had those acres and had that option to do at that time. So yeah, that's kind of what we do, and everything, the basis of what we do it for the cattle. So our soil health, like every acre we put in, we have a backup plan where the cattle can use it if they have to. So I'll pass this on to Jelise because she's the one that handles all the rest of this stuff.
I'm the one who convinced him to do this presentation.
Yeah.
So my farm is called CJ Schmitt Organics. We are an organic grain, forage, and livestock operation with my husband Charles, and we have 4 children. So a little bit of background about myself. I grew up on the farm northeast of Bisane, where Jordan now is. And our farm focused on cattle. We always had barnyard animals, chickens, horses. We always planted a garden in the summer. As a teenager, my family, so Jordan was already gone in university, he was off to school. The rest of our family, we moved into Arborfield, and that's where I graduated from high school. After high school, I came to Saskatoon, I attended university for a time, and then I got my pharmacy technician certificate, became board certified, and I worked for a few years. So there was a few years where I felt like I had completely lost my connection to the farm. I got married to my husband, Charles, and we bought an acreage southeast of Carrot River, where his in-laws, or my in-laws are, sorry, and they have an organic farm here since, I think it was 1997, they became certified. We've got 4 kids who are in multiple activities. In our early years of marriage, I knew that I wanted to raise my kids with a farming background. We started a hobby farm where I milked my cows. I had horses, chickens, rabbits, geese, basically anything you can bring home and put on the farm. So I quit my pharmacy technician job, kind of like Hillary, she can relate over here. I quit my pharmacy technician job after I had my first child, and we've been farming alongside my in-laws since 2011. Like I said, I have 4 kids. I run after all of them right now. I'm a bookkeeper for my husband's roofing business, as well as our farm. I sit on boards for TCO CERT, and I'm also the chair of the ALICE for the Saskatchewan Association of Watersheds in the Carrot River Valley. In 2017, we decided to certify our own farm. That's when I convinced my brother to convert some of his land at Bisane into organic land. We started converting a couple quarters per year, and now we have 2,900 farmable converted acres. We work on a crop share agreement that utilizes my skills in the office and my marketing and Jordan's hands-on skills. The initial management standard of organics used to be you did 2 cereal crops followed by a crop year and then a plow down in year 4. In this standard, we would disc, cultivate, and sometimes harrow the soil prior to seeding, which disturbed the soil about 2 to 3 times even before we started the seeding process. These practices were mainly used for weed control, getting rid of your thistles, dandelions, everything. The crops were also disturbed while growing because we would take a weeding machine in when probably about 3 weeks after the seeds are to come out of the soil, and we would weed in between the rows to get all the weeds out without disturbing the actual grain growing. So you're disturbing the soil again. With a standard practice, we found that the soil health, it was suffering because there's so much soil disturbance and the water retention was very poor. In our farm practice that we have right now, we're trying to find ways to eliminate the plow down year or extend it for less soil disturbance. We have been aiming at doing 3 to 4 cereal crops, depending on the land, depending on the year, followed by a diverse mix of annual, biannual, perennial forages, and then a plow down. We have also tried implementing a green manure crop, which we underseed with our cereal crops. We're hoping to eliminate the disking, cultivating, and harrowing for the following year. This is in a trial stage, so we're not sure how this is going yet. We're also hoping that this will help with weed control as well. So I spend a lot of time in my office. I work on grants and anything to do with regenerative agriculture because I feel like that's what we're doing. We're combining a lot of our farming aspects together, and that's what we're focusing on. So at the beginning of the year, Jordan and I sit down, we make our crop plans, and then I go back to the office, find whichever grant for whichever project we have in mind, and sometimes we alter our crop plans according to what grants are available. Any financial assistance really helps us out. I've worked with grant programs in the past, such as RELP with the Ministry of Ag, Alice, where I'm chair member. EcoCert is very specific to organic producers, and the Northern Plains program, where they provided us with soil testing and moisture probes. All data collected and projects trialed help us figure out what crop practices we'd like to incorporate into our operation. The regenerative ag practices fits with our farm as we've talked about the topography of our land. We've got sloughs, we've got tree lines, the diverse crops we want to plant for the land to allow nutrients to get into the soil as well for our cattle feed. We are preserving the natural ecosystems, so we're keeping those natural waterways intact. We're allowing soil a time of rest. Sometimes we only take 1 cut of alfalfa instead of 2 because we feel like maybe it would benefit the land more. We're feeding the soil the appropriate nutrients. We have plants that work together rather than competing against each other, and it also helps with our weed control. We're utilizing the manure on the farm. Some fields are fenced in, which manure we just put the cows right out. Some fields are not, so we take the manure and we spread it onto those fields. It's a cheap form of fertilizer, and it's already available to us. We have done exclusion fencing. I've done some at my own place, where I'm actually keeping my cows out of the creek that runs alongside of our property. So it's allowing the ecosystem to be in its natural habitat. We grow mostly organic oats. We've tried alfalfa, we've tried clovers, we've tried grass mixes. We've intercropped peas and oats in the past. And something new this year we tried was actually flax. We're trying to plant more diverse crops that get more nitrogen into the soil, while we're also fitting it into our crop rotations. In my opinion, the cows and the crops go hand in hand for rejuvenating the soil. You need both. I like to learn about new farming practices or try different crop varieties, and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't, but that's what farming is being about. Being a farmer, it's not about being a millionaire. We love that. It's not. It's about the lifestyle we choose to raise our kids and teaching them the different practices used to benefit the soil and preserve the natural habitats. And if we can learn to farm with nature, everyone will benefit at the end of the day. Now, I think I had put a lot of information in here that covered some questions Hillary had, but I'd like to know if there's any questions from any of you guys here. Yes?
Is there anything different, like from the livestock side, that you have to do, like working with the organic farm, or can you manage your cattle like conventionally, and does that still work with the organic side?
Well, we don't have the livestock actually certified organic.
Okay.
So they are their own separate entity. We are using the manure from the livestock, which it's following all organic practices, so we don't have to do anything different there. And we are just putting the cattle onto the actual organic crops we have, and that's easy to do too. There's nothing extra for documenting. It all just flows hand in hand with it.
Cool.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead. Keep going.
Are you guys doing your own like seed cleaning and separation to like build that into your economic system, or is that something you're looking at going forward? If not,
we tried seed cleaning. particularly when we did the intercropping of the oats and peas, and it didn't really work for us.
Well,
Yeah.
it did work, but the financial cost of doing it didn't offset the benefits. Where the benefit is gonna be is, like that was oats and peas, the benefit's gonna be in the soil going forward. And we're trying to measure that every year. We haven't got the results yet from our soil testing this year to see if we're building the organic matter this year or not. But we'll have those results in the next month or so, and then be interesting data. This will be year number 3 on that ground. So we'll see how that part of it works. Jalice's in-laws do have a cleaner as well, so we have done some cleaning and stuff like that through that.
Cool, thank you.
Go ahead.
When you're dealing with converting the perennial forage into the annual crop, weed control is an issue in organic all the time. So how do you deal with volunteer alfalfa or grasses or that sort of thing that come up, or do you really worry about it?
So, like volunteer alfalfa,
Sorry. I was asking about weed control when the stand is terminated, moving into the organic annual crop, because that's always an issue.
yeah, so we definitely do have, like alfalfa will come back up in the stand. I don't get really too concerned about that. It looks worse than it actually is. And at the same time, I don't think the alfalfa is really hurting anything. So we do have some weeds that come in there, and I mean, if we do have a field that's really bad in wild oats or really bad in weeds, then we might just silage that field and start all over again. So it's still getting utilized for the cattle. We put it in the pit, clean up the field, and then reassess the following year. So it might put us a year behind on our process or in that rotation, but we can still clean it up that way.
Do livestock parasites or insecticides affect the organic side of it, like in terms of the treatment options?
Honestly, so the cows are only in the field in the summertime if they're grazing that pasture, or we put them in for silage. And once that stuff runs through the cow, goes into the soil, it really doesn't have, it doesn't go on the charts. So it doesn't have any effects at all. It would be different if you were treating those animals and they were specifically on that piece of land for an extended period of time. Yeah. I did bring with me a couple of blends that we have tried that have worked for us. Well, some have worked, some have not.
This is our main blend,
So our main blend that we have done for a couple years on a few different pieces of land.
maybe 15 years.
Oh, 15 years. It's been more than a few years. We've done blizzard orchard grass. We've done brome grass in this blend, alfalfa, sandfoin, cicer milk vetch, some wheatgrass, red fescue, tall fescue, and timothy.
And the brome grass is always a hybrid. And we've had very good results on our ground with this blend. I don't know, like the sandfoin, I wouldn't say we've had great results with that in the blend. We throw it in every year, but it seems like it disappears. The cicer, I said it didn't work at all, but now it's coming. So, and even when you actually put the fields back into organic, once you get the cicer there, the cicer's there. It shows up in the field and you till it under and you still pull your crop off, but there's ruminants in there all the time. And I've talked to people that said that's gonna be a problem going forward. We haven't seen it yet, but time will tell.
Another mix that we've tried here, this was kind of a fun mix. We did the Japanese millet, we done the hairy vetch, we've done bursting clover, we've done what else? Persian clovers, forage collards, brassicas, chicory, clovers, plantains, turnips, sunflowers, ryegrass, a whole mix of everything in here. And this has been a good one for silage.
Yeah, it has been a good one for silage. Like this year it was pretty dry though, and I'm not sure if we got the full benefits that we would like to see out of it. This is a 2-year cover crop, so we'll see what it looks like next year. So we're thinking next year we might change our blend a little bit if we're gonna have a drier year again.
Jordan, does that get fed to the feedlot as well, or is that just for the cow-calf operation?
That goes to the feedlot as well.
So you test it every year?
Yeah, we get feed tests on it every year. I did not bring those feed tests. Last year it looked very similar to what like a good barley silage
Okay.
would do, but each year is gonna be a little different.
Yeah, for sure.
We usually use a forage oats with that blend as our cover crop. So we've had pretty good results getting the tonnage with that, the energy and stuff like that. We can roll barley, I can find energy. So that's not a problem.
Any other questions from the crowd? Go ahead.
How long do you leave the perennials in your rotation? You seed it and then they're in there forever, or you take them out after a while?
It's field specific. So we just kind of watch it every year. If it's starting to get tired, then we'll take it out. If it's close to home in our fenced off pastures, my wife does a lot of rotational grazing and different things like that. So those fields have been in there 15 years with proper management. They're not deteriorating yet.
So what on average do you get lifetime out of some of those blends?
Probably for us 7-8 years, and usually at that time we start to lose some of those species in there, and we make a choice to rejuvenate it. And I mean, for us, it's a little different because we have the farming side of it, we have the equipment to do it. It's not, if you were just straight cows or cattle, it'd be a little more difficult in process.
And the land base as well. We have the land base that can do that. And a few years ago, depending on the years, obviously, but a few years ago, we were gonna rip up a bunch to put into the organic, but it was such a dry year that we just altered our crop plans and said, no, they gotta stay for another year. We'd be doing more harm than good.
What is your method for termination to fit into the organic system? Like a lot of my producers would spray it out, but how are you managing that from an organic standpoint?
Yeah, so the fields need to be 3 years, like we don't use sprays or anything. We do have our conventional acres, but that's totally different. So what we usually do is let it get a growth, then we go in and we hay it or we silage it off. And then we kind of let it grow about 6 inches again. And then we go in with the high-speed disc and terminate it for the year, blacken it up. And then the following spring we'll see it good again. We're considering practicing going away from some of that and trying to do some direct seeding with a disc drill or some sort of concept like that. We just haven't got there yet. That's kind of next on our experimentation.
Go ahead.
Are there any other people in the area that are mixing organic and cattle, or do you guys have to do some downstream based on?
I think we spent most of our winters going to workshops and finding out from people across the province. There's no, not very many. There's people who do just organic cattle with a little bit of cropland, but mainly for their cattle, but no, not on this scale, I would say. Yeah, we got right ideas off of you guys. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you guys for allowing us to be here and talk about what we're doing. It's, yeah, we are always learning, like we said. So if you have any ideas for us, I mean, we'll listen to them. We'll try our best here.
I guess I have one more question,
Okay.
sorry, before you go.
Okay.
I know lots of producers, when they're thinking about, they have cattle and they're thinking about partnering with a grain neighbor, things like bale management on fields is an issue. Are there any, like, things you guys had to really, like, work out between the cattle and grain side that, like, I call them pinch points, but, like, so my dad always says, when you do that, you need to get the bales off immediately because they need to do fall management, and then twine is always an issue. So have you guys faced any of that?
Well, most of our feed goes through like a TMR mixers, so we don't have a lot of twine issues. Maybe in some of the manure management side of it, you'll get some out there, but because I'm making most of the decisions on how we do that, it's not a big issue for us.
Okay, we're gonna hand it back to Hillary. Thank you guys for